Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Studs and Scrubs Hockey Podcast. I am Stu Coffey. With me, as always, is my co-host, Nick Strum. Nick, how you doing today?
Doing good, Stu. Doing all right. We're on, what's this today? Today's a Sunday. I told you earlier, my days are a little off. But
Yeah.
no, today's Sunday and having a good weekend so far. I tell you, I'm at this transitioning period with my kids. So Eli will be, he's 14, he'll be 15, Zoe's 11, she'll be 12. So I'm in this phase where we're watching movies together, but we're no longer in like the little kid
Oh,
Disney
right. You can step it up a
movie.
little
So, um, sometimes I kind of have to do a little research and see if some movies that are PG-13, like why are they PG-13? Like, is it all right to kind of watch with, Eli's fine, but Zoe sometimes a little. So we're going to finish today, but yesterday we started School of Rock.
bit. Dude, that
Uh,
is such a good movie.
Yeah, so they both kids have been loving it so far. Last weekend, I did a John Candy movie marathon with Eli, and by marathon I just mean we watched two movies, but it was Uncle Buck and The Great Outdoors.
Dude,
So I mean,
Great Outdoors is my favorite one, I think.
two great movies. Um, but they were like late '80s, early '90s, maybe probably just late '80s, not even early '90s. But so they were both rated PG, but it was before the PG-13 rating. So it was like it's either PG or it's R. So like a little bit more
Oh,
language than what you would remember if you watched the
yeah,
DVD version,
especially Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck swears more than Great Outdoors, for sure.
but not crazy. So, but Zoe was, where did she go? She was maybe at volleyball practice or something. I can't remember. So it was like Eli and I had some time. I was like, dude, let's just watch these movies. And then today, so we started School of Rock last night. We're going to finish it. Zoe went home with some friends after church today, so we're going to finish it later tonight. And then Eli and I came home from church, got some food, and then now we are on a Batman kick. So Batman Begins, we watched that today, and actually he's currently watching. I stepped aside because I've seen it before to do this podcast. Um, The Dark Knight. He's watching
Oh,
that, so it's like perfect.
we might have
So
to turn off the podcast. The
I
Dark
no,
Knight,
it's fine,
you
it's
from the
fine.
Dark Knight?
We started watching. I watched the first hour with him, and then I came in here. I was like, all right. So, but I love being in this stage where I can watch some of these other movies, you know, older movies, classic. You got to watch these. Um, yeah, because also, I mean, today is February 2nd, so it's Groundhog's Day, and I usually
Oh,
watch Groundhog Day, the movie, and so I might have to squeeze that in. I do think I've watched that with my kids before, and it can be a little slow if you're a little young. It's just
yeah, that
repeating
one's a
itself. It's
little
just kind of getting a little monotonous, because he's just doing the same day over and over again. But
same
I
thing,
love it,
right?
so I'll probably
It's,
watch it later tonight. But
I mean, anything with Bill Murray I'd watch, to be honest.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a classic. I can see it is a bit slow for kids, especially, like, I guess. But
yeah, they're like, "What's the point of this day?" It's like, okay, well,
yeah, it's like, okay, well, maybe they haven't experienced the monotony of real life yet, so it's
probably
not
not.
speaking
Yeah,
to them as much. Dude,
but
that is great.
yeah, so I've been on this movie kick with my kids lately, and it's been trying to like, I mean, and I'm kind of, I won't say sad, but like I maybe started them a little too early with some of these movies, like, The Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's like, you guys would love these movies now. Yeah, we
I
saw
was,
those, we've watched them before, and it's like, really? Did we watch? Like,
I
but
was
like,
just gonna ask, weirdly enough, I was like, so are they watching like Indiana Jones yet, and some of those classics? Because they're mostly family friendly, right? But like you're
oh,
saying,
yeah.
like when you're 11, sometimes it's like stuff can
Well,
scare
you're
you that you don't think
thrown in
about.
the snake pit and there's a bunch of snakes, or
Hey,
Temple of
something
Doom, they're going to that thing and they're eating monkey brains and all kinds of
yeah.
crazy food and
Well,
stuff. So
Harrison
it's
Ford
like,
was afraid of the snakes,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Weren't they robotic snakes? And he still was like, which I get because we've talked on this podcast before. The first Home Alone's got that tarantula, and I'm like, dude, I'm
Oh
okay
yes.
with spiders. I don't
Yeah.
really like
Yeah.
this. It's like the one Harry Potter they do, and I'm like,
Yeah.
the spiders are in like 3 or 4 movies, and I feel like they
Yeah.
just are ruining my
Are you
day.
still there? Did I
Yes, you're
lose you?
still. You cut out, but you're back. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yep, I can see you.
Okay, as long as
We're
you're
good.
good, then
It's
you're gonna
still
know.
recording.
Okay. Sometimes we get little
My
glitches
timer's
in the
going,
audio.
says reconnecting, but everything seems to still be okay.
I'm going to mark that just in case for our
All right.
listeners. Sorry if we have difficulties. We're at 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay. So we
But yeah,
had, what was,
it,
but
I'm
no,
I'm just
right?
saying I'm in this sweet spot. I feel like where I'm starting to be able to watch some of these movies with my kids, and I'm loving it. So
Yeah, dude, because also it kind of almost feels like watching it the first time, right? Because like
yeah, when you watch it
when
with someone else, it's their first time. Yeah.
it was, did you introduce me to Tiger King?
Ooh, I don't know.
Or
It
was
might have
that,
been a mutual thing because that was during COVID. I do remember
yeah.
coming over unofficially when we were supposed to be 6 feet
Well,
apart.
we were 6 feet apart with masks, obviously, and we had I don't remember, but anyways, obviously not very family friendly. But yeah, anytime it's like something that you can introduce to somebody, it's like awesome. In fact, I've got one coming up too that is medium family friendly. I feel like if they haven't seen it yet, Eli would be good with it. It's probably a bit intense for Zoe. I know you've seen it, Stranger Things.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I thought my dad had seen it, and he's got like doesn't even know what I'm talking about. I'm like, it
Really?
takes place in the '80s. The kids go, and it's like
Yeah.
sci-fi, and the girls got powers. He's like, no idea what you're talking about. I was, and then he was joking because my mom says the same thing. During the '80s, right? They had like most of the kids, right? They had 3 kids, and the two of us in the '90s, and it was like from graduating college until whatever, basically '85 to '95. They're like, it's a
Mm.
blur. I don't. So my dad's like, I don't remember the '80s. Dude. It was like college, and then I had 5 kids. All I did was work. Like I don't
Yeah.
remember anything. And so I was like, no, no, this is a modern show. It's on
Yeah.
TV right now. It takes place in the '80s, and it's like so. Then I got really excited because we haven't started yet, but the final season comes out this year. So I'm like, dude, you're so lucky.
Okay.
You get to come in and just binge the whole entire show. You don't have to wait at all. Like because I can't remember what happened. Like it got held up. I think during COVID, maybe is it even that old? But the
I
writers uh, strike, I think, pushed back the
I
whole season.
I think it might have been the writer's strike because I feel like they filmed it all just because they didn't want the kids to, the kids were growing and like
Mm.
changing and stuff. So, but I feel like it was maybe more the writer's strike. It might have been COVID that kind of threw it off too. But
I feel
um,
like there was 2 seasons with weird gaps, and it's like I've been waiting for like 8 years for this show, and it's only got
yeah,
4 seasons or 5.
yeah. But I feel like some of that was on purpose that they like, okay, we're going to record all these, but we're not going to release them until, this is season two, this is season three,
Pretty
but it's going to
sure,
be later or whatever. But
pretty sure
yeah,
that
I'm not,
season did that. Like it
I,
was like, recording's
I do
done.
think there was something that was throwing it off though, whether it was COVID or the writer's strike or something. But yeah,
Don't remember, but yes, there was some sort of delay. And anyways, so now I'm excited for that show again because I love Stranger Things, but like I didn't like the newer seasons quite as much. So I was kind of like,
okay.
I'm down for it, but I am like a little like, okay,
So
how does
there's
it
one more season this year?
one more season? And I think it's the no spoilers, but right, it's like the final boss. They figured out how it all started and who the guy is, and now we got to like they basically got outmatched last season. They got attacked by this dude and they couldn't handle it, so they survived. But now they got to like we got to go on the offensive. Like this one, we got to take the main bad guy out and like save Hawkins forever. So I'm pretty sure that that's the final season. This one in 2025. I still like season one the best though, if I'm being honest. Still my favorite.
There is something to be said about right, because season one is probably the least amount of like I'll say gore, but that's not really maybe the word that I mean.
No, but
Uh,
yeah, it's still kind of aggressive and sort of like
it's
icky
a
for
little
that.
more suspense and like just more storyline rather than and I kind of like that. I like when it's you're not really sure what's going on. You can't see the monster. Like what is happening? Like it just
Yeah,
seems like it was more.
yeah. You
I'm
had
paying
clues.
attention.
That's
I'm
the
like, wait,
whole
what is happening?
what happened to Will? Will's gone, but he's not gone, and his mom's going crazy. It was just like so.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what? I don't know if it's 100% true, but probably should check before I say stuff on the recordings. But whatever.
yeah.
That the kids are playing Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Hmm.
And then there's the oh no, it's the Demogorgon, watch out, and they always lose to the Demogorgon, but then they have to like we're not gonna run away anymore. We gotta beat him, and that's basically the whole first season.
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's what it was. I'm pretty positive that the writers wrote a Dungeons and Dragons
Mm,
app or whatever it's called, a dungeon. Like they were the game masters. They wrote it as a playthrough experience. Then
okay.
like, they twisted it and sort of were like, oh, this would be kind of a cool idea for like a TV show. And so then that sort of like, what is this
Yeah.
bad guy? What's going on? I can't figure it out. That whole suspense was kind of already pre-delivered for them almost.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that's cool. Love that you're in the transition of getting to the more grown up type shows like that, like The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight really basically anyone could watch, but it's scary on purpose. And it's kind of weird for like if you're young and like the Joker's insane and there's some
Right.
weird things that are like it's
Well,
pretty scary.
and so I mean, so it's perfect, right? It's afternoon. I'm not watching it at night. Zoe's not here.
Yeah.
I tell you another movie that is kind of on the bubble. Great movie, but Pirates of the Caribbean, the
Oh
first one. Okay,
yeah. First one.
perfect. It's not really meant to be like scary, scary, but for an 11-year-old,
Yeah.
they're skeletons. I
Yeah.
mean, so there is an element of kind of about it that, all right, well, if I watch it with her, I'm not going to watch it at night right before she goes to bed. That's the last
Yeah.
thing I need.
Right.
Um, but we're getting to that point where it's like she kind of understands a little bit more, like, oh, it's just a movie, or this is not
Yes.
real, and so we can watch a little bit more of those. Now I'm not watching scary movies. I don't anybody blow this out of proportion or take it the
Oh,
wrong way, but a simple movie like that I can't
yeah.
watch with
No,
Zoe,
and
and
you guys are obviously pretty conservative with stuff like that because there are some people that are like, it's fake, it's no big deal, and oh, my 8-year-old we watch Saw together, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't do that. No, I don't watch that stuff as a grown up. I'm like,
yeah, yeah.
no, thank you. Well, that's not quite true. I did watch the first Saw and liked it, and I hate horror movies. I'm not a horror movie person. I'm not.
Okay, but that goes back to I was thinking about that while we were talking about Stranger Things. The first one,
Yeah,
perfect.
perfect, and it's
You,
really not
you,
like
you,
that scary. It just makes you like, what is happening?
and then at the end, you're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
Okay, but after that, what did they transition to? It was just what crazy contraption can we
90
come up
minutes of
with
horror, like
of gore and everything? No, 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 no,
like
no.
straight
I
around
want
and
the
straight.
cool.
Yep.
Give me the story, the twist, the whole
Yeah.
like what's happening here. That's what I like, and I feel like that's whatever that word is. I can't think of to describe that. That's what Stranger Things season one is.
Definitely
It's
that
more,
it's that type of exactly the same
yeah,
thing with the old movies. Some of the old like Jaws, they say
yeah,
it's partially because of like the mechanics of the robot shark, but also
hmm,
it's like um, you don't see what everyone's afraid
yes,
of for like
yes.
what
Most
80%
of the
of
movie,
the movie. And
yeah,
it's like that is good because that's
yeah.
nature. That's the humans are we're afraid of what we're
The
not sure.
unknown, yeah,
You're afraid of the dark because what's in the dark. It's not that
yeah,
you can't see, right? Exactly. And so that makes it better to me than just like a
yes,
slasher or just full blown horror. It's just like, oh, what if you were locked in a cage and the only way out was to cut off your own hand? And it's like, I'm not
yeah,
into it. Not my thing. But
yeah.
whatever. That's
Okay.
anyways. Now
Anyway,
we're way off topic. But
all
going
right,
back, okay, love movies. Everyone loves
yeah,
movies. So, excitement in the NHL as well. We had one of our little clips got a lot of views for us on TikTok, which was nice. We don't post a lot of our podcast stuff, but there's a clip of you and I know you saw it, that we cut out of one of our episodes talking about all this drama in Vancouver and the Pedersen and the Miller and how good Quentin Hughes is. And all I was saying was like, who cares at this point who you get rid of? Whatever the drama is, somebody's got to go. Because Quentin Hughes is your guy. That's your anchor. That's who you keep forever. Thatcher Demko's obviously a total stud when he's healthy. But, like, Pedersen versus Miller, like, ship somebody out of town because Hughes is your guy you got to keep for a generation. And then, luckily, by chance, the trade happens shortly after we post this video. So for us, we got a lot of views. And so if you decided to come watch the podcast via our little viral video, thank you. Sorry that we talk for 15 minutes about movies, but we do stuff like that here. So join in. You could write in if you'd like. Leave some
drop us a comment. Yeah.
What are some really good, and those type of movies, those type of family friendly, think of a 12-year-old range, let us know. Let us know some good movies.
Right, because here's what I'm trying to get. What are some good 90s movies or movies like from early 2000s, just like movies that are nostalgia for me growing up that I watched that now I want to watch with my kids. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to hit that sweet spot where it like connects with me and I'm watching it for the first time with my kids. And we've already knocked out a ton of them. Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Big Green, those types of movies. It's just like
there's some good G ones. If anyone's watching, you've never seen The Big Green, go watch it. It's basically take the Sandlot and make a soccer.
Yeah, The Sandlot. We've watched that with the kids before. Yeah,
I mean Sandlot is definitely a better movie, but The Big Green is so good. The Big Green is so good. Underrated. Nobody's ever heard of it. It's so good. And there was just one I was thinking of that was a little more PG, definitely family friendly, but it's just a little more risque. Beverly Hills Ninja. You ever seen that one? It's a Chris Farley movie. He's one ninja. And then Chris Rock joins him like halfway through or something. It is so dang funny. But anyways, do that one, and then we should transfer over into our hockey talk. So
sorry about all that. But drop us some...
Get smooth.
Give me some hints. Give me some suggestions for some movies that I should watch with my kids.
Yeah, lots of suggestions. We'll watch them. And I'll watch them. All right. Baby's one, so I can kind of watch anything. She's not quite old enough.
There you go.
Anything yet. So.
All right. So back to hockey. JT Miller.
JT Miller trade. Everyone's heard of it by now. We're not breaking any news, but we were talking about it on the last podcast that the Rangers seems like the most sense, and he was fairly open that that's all he wanted to go to. My question is more to you is I wonder if that played a big part because I thought the return was a little light maybe. I don't know. We talked about the Rantanen trade that is like basically superstars 1-for-1. And I felt like Rantanen was the better player in that Carolina one, but don't look now. Nietzsche is absolutely on fire.
Killing it. Yeah.
And then Miller goes to the Rangers and scores 2 goals.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. Now we got some big names moving. Philip Cheadle, I didn't watch play yet because I was watching the Canucks game when Miller got traded, and it was like he's going onto the ice, and they're like, nope, get on a plane. You're going to New York. So then they got to play a man short who's a superstar, and then they don't have their guys yet, right? Cheadle's not going on the ice. The game starts in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was, anyways, so... Did you have any thoughts on the breakdown or it was Cheadle and Mancini? To be honest, I don't know about Mancini.
I didn't know much about anyone else involved in the trade. I've heard of Cheadle. He's done okay. Obviously, I think the Canucks got more, players and picks than the Rangers did. Miller was the big name in this.
Basically, they got Cheadle is a serviceable center. He's the second line on a Red Wings team, he's a third line on the Oilers, and they got a first round pick that's protected. I think it's that if the Rangers continue to crap the bed and they end up getting like
a top bottom, whatever,
you don't pick. I'm pretty sure. If they go to the playoffs, it says top 13. So if the Rangers come back from the depths and they go to the playoffs, I think Vancouver gets their 2025 first. If the Rangers fall off and they get last place, I think that you can't have it. and then Vancouver gets their first round pick, I think, 2026, no matter
Next
what.
year. Okay.
No
Yeah.
matter what. If you get last place and it's the number one pick, it's Vancouver's. So I think Vancouver basically, in my opinion, they had their hands tied a little bit. They're trying to get the best they can. They get a decent center, and Mancini, I am pretty sure, is a young prospect defenseman. So they said we got two future situations. We either get a decent round pick in 2025, or we luck out and we get an awesome pick in 2026, and we get a young defenseman and we get a decent center. But for a guy who's a superstar, I don't know. That's a lot of noise. You didn't get very much back, right? I mean,
Yeah, so here's my take is that sometimes it's addition by subtraction, right?
yeah,
You have someone in your locker room that's causing problems. Your team's not gelling. If you wait another 6 weeks until the trade deadline, is his stock going to go up or down? It's probably going to go down. Teams are going to know that you're getting more desperate, so they can lowball you a little bit more. Maybe that's, and especially if he's got a no trade clause and it gets leaked or it's known that, like, hey, I only want to go to this team or these teams or whatever,
yeah,
you're kind of handcuffed as the team stuck with them because it's like, well, all right, the Oilers might be able to offer me more or the Wings might be able to offer me more, but he doesn't want to go there.
right.
So I can only take offers from these two teams. Maybe they know about it. I'm sure they're connected enough to kind of get a feel for the room and understand what the situation is. Um, you're crazy if you don't think that JT Miller's people aren't talking to the Rangers people, or I know that there's all these things about like tampering and they can't,
Yeah,
whatever, who knows, but that stuff also to me is out there. You can't
yeah,
hide it.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, that might have been the best offer they could get. They said, you know what, let's pull the trigger because let's get him out of here and then let's get our team kind of a fresh start. Imagine, okay, so if you're Pedersen uh, and Miller's on your team, you got 6 more weeks to go. You just got this conflict in the room. Your team starts to lose a little bit. I mean, it could just go sideways fast. But now you're 6 weeks out from the trade deadline. Oh, a weight's been lifted off of his shoulders because it's like, all right, he's gone. I'm happier now. We're all a little more comfortable. And even if you're not directly involved in the feud, we'll call it, if you're just a guy in the locker room and you got to be around these two, I would assume that eventually you'd have to pick a side.
that's true. I mean, it'd just be awkward, right? There's only 20 people.
It'd just be awkward.
You're
So people would know kind of who's,
I mean, you work together. You've been
and
in work environments where people like have a rift,
yeah,
or an ex girlfriend or something like that, where it's like it
right.
starts to become like
And
if
then you
one
start
away
talking
games,
about it to some
who's
other
here.
player, and then it's like, oh yeah, so and so, blah, and then So I just imagine that they were ready to move on. You know what? Let's take what we can get. Let's just get him out of here, so that these other guys can have this elephant in the room gone, the weight off their shoulders, and now they can just get back to playing hockey and without this distraction.
Yes, that I definitely agree that that's probably the best thing out of all of it because I think you nailed it. If the Rangers know that that's where Miller wants to go, and the Vancouver Canucks say we can basically only trade to the Rangers, you got to move him now because I think you're right. The longer you wait, his stock's going to go down because he's only
You're
willing to
going to
go
get more
one.
desperate. Yeah.
And then you almost have to say, well, now they're giving us nothing in return, so now we got to move Pedersen. Okay, well now Pedersen stock's going to go down because people are going to go, okay, well we're going to give you less, and it just
Yeah.
now you're going to give away one of your superstars for less than they're worth, and you might as well just move now and go
Yeah.
because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. And now that the weight's off everyone's shoulders, let's just see. Can Vancouver turn it around, or is that not enough? Or are they almost on to next season at this rate? I guess
And
we'll
that gives them some time too. We're 6 weeks out from the trade deadline. Let's see how they respond in these 6 weeks. And hey, are we going to be buyers, sellers at the deadline? Are we going to stay put? how's this going to affect our team? So now they've given themselves some wiggle room too before the trade deadline to see what they need to do. And same with the Rangers. Hey, pull the trigger now, because in 6 weeks, do you flip him back to a contender if he's not working out there? Or is he enough of a jolt to your team that you think, okay, he's sparked us a little bit. Now we've turned it around. Maybe we go make another move at the deadline. You know, so
Yes.
it is interesting that all these trades are kind of
It,
happening earlier than the
it's
deadline.
so
But
early, which kind of brings me to the same point, but pivot from it is like you said with flipping. Okay, so let's say that they get this first round pick that is going to be a decent pick, even if the Rangers make the playoffs, it'll be okay, right? So maybe they say we need center depth and we want some more D. That's what we're trying to answer. Well, we just gave away debatably the best center, and we got Cheadle in return. Cheadle's solid. Okay, well, maybe you're going to a team, I can't think off the top of my head, who has lots of centers, and you're saying, we got a long time before the trade deadline. We can still make lemonade out of lemons and take, hey, I got Rangers first round pick protected, and I've got, I don't know, Brock Besser or somebody.
yeah,
And now you're going and saying, okay, Besser's a very, very good player, plays on the wing, right? Besser's a winger. And we got a first round pick. Now you go take somebody else's center out of the league, and you go, okay, now I basically turned Miller into two centers. And then you got
right,
Pedersen on first line. You go try to get yourself a second line guy, and then you got Cheadle. And you're kind of sitting there going, okay, well, hold up. Now we got a pretty good chance. And I don't know if that's necessarily what they're thinking, but it's an interesting development with the Rantanen Nietzsche's trade and now the Miller trade happening so early that I wonder two things. Are they trying to make a second move? And are teams using the Four Nations face-off break as like a we don't want to risk it? Because I do think there's some concern when it's the All-Star break. It's not really relevant. But
yeah,
if I trade for this guy, Mikko Rantanen, or we're going to wait all the way to July 1st to come to a number, or we're trying to win a Stanley Cup, and he blocks a shot and breaks his ankle for Team Finland, oops. Well, now his trade value is basically useless because he's done for the year. We can't flip him to a loan, right? Like he's right now in
right,
Carolina as a loan. They're going to try to win the Stanley Cup. I'm sure they'd love him to sign, but if he wants $15 million, maybe not.
yeah,
Point being, they got him for the playoffs. Okay, if he goes and gets hurt in the Four Nations, they're screwed. So I think some of these teams are going, we don't want to risk it. We want these people moved before this tournament. And I think it might play into it because some of these teams, superstars, they're going to play hard. This is not an all-star game. They're going to go crazy. So I
yeah,
wonder if that, especially I feel like the U.S.-Canada game that's in Montreal, that's their first meeting. That's going to be that's going to be a playoff game. People are
yeah,
not going to be coasting. That game is going to be intense.
yeah.
So I mean, just curious if that maybe has played into it because we don't normally see big, huge trades before the
This
tournament.
early, yeah.
Yeah, it seems weird, but it's great because it's a lot to talk about. But do you think that maybe weighs into it at all, or no?
Um, yeah, I definitely think there's something to that. And maybe not necessarily even out of fear of guys getting hurt. I like how we talked about before with Rantanen being traded to Carolina. He's going to be playing with Aho at the Four Nations.
Yeah,
So, that bodes well for Carolina. If they both
yeah,
stay healthy, okay, well, I know we've got this break, but they're going to be still out there playing together, um, building that chemistry.
definitely.
So,
And that's a good point where, like, what if they do really well? Like, I think we gave a prediction early on, just kind of off the top of our head. We should do another one the week that the games are
yeah,
on, where, like, I think you and I both said that there might be an upset somewhere, and that like Finland is an underrated team. So
yeah,
if you get Aho and Rantanen going to this tournament and they upset somebody, they beat I would probably put Sweden number 4 personally right now as it sits. But if Finland upsets U.S. or Canada, that's just building everyone's. I mean, line one, I think, is going to be Aho, Barkov, and Rantanen. I mean,
Yeah.
now Heiskanen might miss the tournament. I'm not sure, but Miro Heiskanen got hurt. So
Okay.
all that being said, is that Finland is a really underrated team, and it's like,
Yeah.
dude, line one can go against any line one. I don't care
Yeah.
that it's McDavid and Makar and McKinnon. That's insane. But like Barkov and Rantanen and Heiskanen and Aho, it's like they're not scrubs. These guys are studs.
Yeah.
So they upset. They do really well in the tournament. That's I mean, they're still people. They're still guys.
Yeah.
Bros being guys, making those bonds. They're gonna come back
Right.
to Carolina and be like one wavelength.
And I wonder if that also maybe had something to do with Carolina pulling the trigger before the Four Nations. If you can get Rantanen playing with Aho, and he loves it, they go
Yeah.
to the Four Nations, and he just has the time of his life playing with another Finnish player.
Yeah.
That's just we got Aho here in Carolina. Like, sign with us, stay here.
Yeah. You
So,
never
I mean,
know.
that might be another chip that they're hoping, plays in their favor for signing them. So,
Yeah, you would think so. And then at the same time, Nietzsche goes to contender. Not that Carolina's not, but they're both contenders. He's on line one. He's getting tons and tons and tons of points. You get to go every shift with Makar and McKinnon. It's like dream come
yeah,
true for him. Also, he's getting tons of points. Thank goodness I have him in fantasy. He's been on fire since he got traded
yeah,
to the Avs. I think maybe the first game he struggled, but I mean he's had a point every game, multiple points in two
yeah,
of them. I feel like he's had 2 or 3 multiple point games in 4 games. So
yeah,
kind of a win-win there. We'll see how the Miller trade plays out, but he scored twice in his first game. So he's obviously loving his time in New York. I would love to see New York battle back just because it's a cool story. But to be honest, I don't really care. I'm done with New York and Boston and some of these teams we've seen over and over and over and over again. I would love for the Red Wings to make it, obviously, because we're Red Wings fans. But at this point, it's like Wings are my number one. I want to get in always. It's looking a little hard, but they're right there. Dude, the Blue Jackets. The Blue
oh yeah,
Jackets. It's like they're right there. They're so
great
close.
story.
I think they're in today. If it was
Okay,
today, they'd be in. I'm pretty sure. Let me look at it. Yes, because
really?
they would be in. Get this. The wild card teams would be the Lightning and the Blue Jackets. The Bruins have fallen out. Third in the Atlantic is the Senators, as of today or yesterday when they won.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, they just creamed the Wild like
They
6-0 the other
crushed
day.
them, and I think
Yeah.
that game made them leapfrog the
Okay.
Lightning. But I mean, there's games in hands and all that. But it's
Yeah.
like I would obviously rather have the Red Wings make it than the Senators. But Blue Jackets and Senators instead of the Rangers and Boston, like we've seen all these
Oh
same
yeah.
teams for so long. Like let's get some new blood in there. I love it. And anyways, so I was just thinking of that. That it's like I'm done. Okay, Miller goes and he does awesome, and they do great, and they come
The
back.
the Rangers are always that team once the playoffs come around and you're filling out your playoff bracket. It's like, dude, the Rangers have so much talent. I know I've picked them to win the cup a couple of times in the last 5-7 years,
Yeah.
and they just underperform. They're underwhelming in the playoffs. They can't seem to get over the hump for whatever reason.
Yes.
I mean, they haven't been to the finals since what?
14,
Lundqvist was there, 14
Yeah, when
something.
they
Yeah.
lost to
So,
LA, that was the last time.
but they've had a ton of talent since then, and it's just like
Yeah.
you guys are, man, on paper you should have won a couple of cups by now.
Yeah.
But
And it's just ridiculous. At least I would say at least 2. You could have won one recently, and you could have won one back with Lundqvist fairly easily on paper.
yeah,
2
yeah,
cups.
and
If
and
you
they're
had
always that team that goes all in. I mean, they traded for Patrick Kane at the
right.
one deadline. I mean, it was just like, I don't know.
I don't know,
So
but whatever. I didn't really have too much on them. It just made me think of like Miller
yeah,
going there, and it's like they've been super good since January. Then they add Miller, and then he gets 2 goals, and they're trending in the right direction. But it's like I don't even want it at this point. I'd rather see the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings because I'm biased. But if it was the Senators, I'd rather see the Senators than the Rangers also.
yeah,
Just something different. And they're winning a lot of games with Olmark out, which I'm going to
Mm.
pivot back to the Four Nations. I hope everyone's healthy because the tournament I'm getting so excited for seeing best on best. But Markstrom for the Devils is hurt. Olmark for the Senators is hurt. And Gustafsson for the Wild is hurt. That is all three of Sweden goalies. Like, and they're all total studs. So it kind
Yeah.
of sucks that it's like I hope someone gets healthy
Mm.
because
Yeah.
all three teams are in the playoffs right now. So if your goalie
Yeah.
is still hurt, he can't play, but he's kind of like I'm recovering. Do you think that the owners want to get a phone
Ugh.
call that says, "Hey, Markstrom's hurt, so I'm Olmark. This is my chance. I'm going to play
Yeah.
every single game. I'm going to go play." I don't think the Senators would be very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do, right? So it's just kind of an interesting dynamic that with no Russia and with no Czech Republic or Czechia and with no, Europe team or rest of the world team,
Right.
it's like all of a sudden Sweden's a little bit on the weaker side. They're decent, but like if they're getting banged up and missing people, you didn't take Ricard Raquel. All your goalies are hurt. Eric Carlson's a winger on your point. I mean, like the team's falling apart. This might not be
Yeah.
as fun for them at this rate, but
For sure.
so mostly all those trades talks for us, right? Is does it affect fantasy? Miller and Nietzsche and Rannon are
Oof.
kind of rostered for everybody, right? I mean,
Right.
they're all superstars,
Yeah.
but I don't know about some of these the smaller names involved, right? Like Cheadle, is Cheadle going to get a big enough bump where you should consider picking him up? He's only got 11 goals.
I don't think so. I don't see. I mean, I don't. Now, what would be interesting is there were a couple other trades. So Mikael Granlund went to the Stars
Oh yeah,
from the
that's a big
Sharks.
one.
And I didn't do too much digging on these, but I would say just look at maybe what line they end up on,
Yeah,
and if they get any power play time. I mean, obviously teams are trading for these players, and they're going to play them.
yeah,
They're not just going to bury them on the roster depth chart somewhere. But um, so these guys probably are going to get their opportunities. So I would look at Granlund. I think his stats were okay. He was still maybe, I'll say at the time he got traded, maybe a -7 or 8 or something, which wasn't awful for being on the Sharks. I could be wrong on that, but I feel like the stats I was looking at, he was putting up some decent points. His plus minus was off a little bit from being on the Sharks, but now he's going to the Stars, so
yeah.
I could see him getting a little bit of a boost.
That's a good one.
And then, did you see the trade between the Flyers and the Flames?
Yes.
Uh,
Remind me the names.
Joel Farabee.
Yes.
The big names were Joel Farabee traded to the Flames, and then Kuzmenko was traded to the back to the Flyers. There were some other couple other players involved, but those were the bigger name guys. Um, and I've heard some people say that Kuzmenko, his numbers could go down playing in that system with the Flyers. A little more defensive, I guess. But Joel Farabee's a good young player, so
Mm-hmm.
if he's I don't know where he was on the Flyers as far as what line and how much power play time he was getting.
Right.
If you're on power play 2 with the Flyers and now you get traded, now you're going on power play 1, maybe you get a little bit of a boost, but just something to keep an eye on with those players. Sometimes, we've alluded to JT Miller and Rannon and Nietzsche. Sometimes just a change of scenery, you go into a new team
Yep.
is enough to kind of spark something, for you, give you a little jump start. So these guys might be coming out hot out of the gate, but just something to keep an eye on. I don't know that I would venture to guess because JT Miller is going to be rostered on everyone's league. The
Right.
other players involved in that trade, I don't think are going to be of any significance fantasy wise. It would be these other guys, Mikael Granlund, Farabee, Kuzmenko. I think also Cody Ceci might have been traded from the Shark in along with Granlund in that trade, possibly,
Mm.
or it might have been a separate trade to the Stars. And like if you said, if Heiskanen is hurt,
Yeah.
did they trade for Ceci to kind of fill in that gap for him. Maybe he gets some opportunities there. So just something to keep. I would keep an eye on more of those guys than.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because right now he's not on a power play unit, but it's just the lines will get jumbled when there's a trade too.
Right.
So like,
Yeah. Now they're trying to figure out who's got chemistry with who. Where can we plug them and play them?
exactly, and like with the Vancouver, Cheadle is on power play too, but they're playing him on the point. So Pius Suter is the second center. So Suter might have
Okay.
already been the second center, but because you're missing Miller and Pedersen plays on the point on the power play, Jake DeBrusk is moved up from the PP2 to PP1. So I know I always kind of pick him as a cut on the podcast, but that's a lot more time with a team that, in theory, is going to be gelling better. You got Quinn Hughes, and Anderson, and Besser, and DeBrusk and Garland. That's a pretty solid power play. Well, Linus Carlson is a young guy that moves up to power play 2. So just some of those roster moves to look at, like, there could be a better opening than I realized because maybe, Hoglander maybe is a better player that, okay, maybe power play 1 isn't out there the full 2 minutes anymore because you're not doing Pedersen, Hughes, you're trying to balance the minutes more now. So there's all sorts of weird things that just kind of keep your eye out, could affect fantasy. Linus Carlson I mostly brought up, though, because right before the trade happened, or the same week the Miller trade happened, I don't know if you saw this, but it was a little kind of small story that Linus Carlson scored his first NHL goal, and nobody got the puck. And it made me think of how just the other day you were saying Eli scored and you got the puck and did it. And I know it's like it's your son, so it's a little different, but like that is such an NHL tradition that like somebody grabs that puck and they put the tape on it and they take their picture. Here's my first puck. And it's like eventually they got the puck to him. I guess one of the linesmen gave it to the score box over by the penalty, and they just like held it on the desk until apparently Pedersen got it later and was like, "Oh, did you guys get that puck?" And I really only knew about the story because of 32 Thoughts. The young guy that's on 32 Thoughts now is Kyle Bukauskas, and he was talking about it, and he was like, the more I thought about it, it just really bothered me. Like, it really irked me. The more I thought and the more I thought, that was like, this is ridiculous. Like, there's 20 guys on the team. This is a normal thing in the NHL. Like, how it showed the dysfunction in Vancouver was like, you guys are so distracted with all the noise and all the media and who's going to get traded that, like, a rookie just scored his first goal and you guys didn't even remember to get the puck. Like, and so I don't know if he was blown out of proportion, but it was just like you could tell as like a fan of hockey, he was just upset that he was like, "How can you not do that? Like, what's going on?" So in theory, with all of that kind of crap in the rearview mirror, you could see a boost with points with some people, and it might not be Pedersen. It might be some of these people like Cheadle, DeBrusk, and whatever else. Same thing. Joel Farabee, he's had good years in the past. Maybe he gets a little shot of adrenaline, and they might not, you might not get him to the whole season. But look at these trades, look at these shuffles, who gets power play time, and add somebody for a week or two if somebody's hurt. That's how it's fun for us, right? These are super fun as fans of hockey, all these trades. But then, like, does that actually affect fantasy? Maybe. It might. If you're in a close week, it might. That could be the difference between you winning that week.
Yeah.
Especially if you play for money. You want to be the guy who's like, I knew it. Jake DeBrusk, he's on power play 1. He's going to get points.
Yeah.
He's on line 1. I don't know if Miller and Pedersen were playing together because of their little feud. But, like, DeBrusk on line 1 and power play line 1, he might,
Yeah.
Never know. So, and same thing down the list. You probably won't get him in fantasy, but their line 3 is, Cheadle comes in, he's line 2. So now they got Hoglander, Suter, and Sherwood as line 3. That's a pretty good line 3, in Vancouver. So Dallas obviously is always big because the team's so good. So somebody might get a boost in points. What if your league does plus minus? They're probably going to have a better plus minus because Dallas is so much better than the Sharks. Just something to look at. So, anyways, did we want to do a couple studs and scrubs while we got it? We're at 44 minutes, so we're doing pretty good for studs and scrubs here.
All right. Okay, so I got a couple studs, one scrub, but I'll start with a stud. And I'm going to go with Jonathan Drouin for
Mm,
the hated Colorado Avalanche.
yes, yes.
If you look at him, he's available in our league. I think he's rostered in like 31, 32% maybe of the leagues. He has been hurt for a while. I think he just came back. He's been back maybe a month. But if you look at him, he's on the second line in Colorado. He plays, the last I looked, he was on power play one. So anytime you're out there with McKinnon and McCarr, I mean, you're going to accidentally get some power play points. Um, but in his 15 games since being back, he's got 4 goals, 12 assists. Um, like I said, before that, he was kind of hurt. So he's a good plug and play. He might end up being a guy that you becomes a starter for your fantasy team, just depending on how healthy he stays. But he's been killing it lately. So, like I said, only 30 some percent
Yeah.
rostered, but good addition. Anytime you get guys that are playing on a top power play with other studs like that, they're for sure a good plug and play. And like I said, might end up just being a solid starter on your team. So,
That's
Jonathan Drouin, I would look into him.
that's a really good one because, like you said, he's hot right now, coming off his injury, playing really good. I think he got
Yeah,
points today also. He got 2 assists today
yeah.
in a
So,
2-0 win against Philadelphia. I was watching that
mm,
game earlier. Actually, I was maybe halfway through the game when Colorado made it 2-0.
okay.
So Druin gets an assist on both goals. Good,
Yeah.
good call. So this hopefully will come out on Monday the 3rd. Look for players like that. Get them on Monday, and have
Oh,
that
right.
for a few. So
Yep.
I'll jump in with one on my. Hold on, I got my list here somewhere. My watch list. Okay, so um, I can't remember who I was going to say next, so I'm going to go with one of my injured reserve topics. So
Hmm.
last week we talked about using your IR spots. Our league, we changed it so it's IR plus, right? So if they're day to day or out, they can still go on IR. We recommend just go change your settings right now in the middle of the season. I don't care, or do it next year. It's
Yeah.
silly that they have to be listed on IR in real life to do it, especially because hockey is not like football. Everyone's real vague about injuries. Oh, he might play today. Oh, he's traveling with the team, but I don't know if he'll play. Football's easier. There's one game every Sunday. There's like $1 billion in the betting world. Everyone has to know who's playing, right? Hockey's different, right? For me, it was Drew Doughty. Drew Doughty has been hurt for a long time. He came back, not very good for fantasy, to be honest, but he got thrown into the fire. I don't have in front of me who they played, but they played two really super good teams. He played 25 minutes a night, and their team got crushed pretty good. So he didn't do a lot for fantasy, but it's like if you wait until this player's healthy and go get him, you're probably going to miss it. So there's a few good names out there to grab, and I'll just say one. I remembered who my stud was. I'll say next time. Um, I'm going to go with probably the best pick out of all these guys, in my opinion, is going to be Boone Jenner. And
Hmm.
I'll wait a minute, and when we wrap up studs and scrubs, I'll give a list of 4 or 5 names that you can find right now on your IR. And it looks like there's a few people, Jenner included, that are maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks out from being healthy. They're still week to week, but you get updates now. They're saying they're skating again. They're wearing the no contact jersey. They're getting back out there. Well, if they're ready to go in a week or two, it's February the 2nd. I don't think there's any teams out there that are letting these guys come back and play for 3 games. Maybe if they want a little conditioning stint, or certainly if they're not on the Four Nations team rosters. But Boone Jenner, if he's going to come back in 3 or 4 weeks, they're not going to play him before the Four Nations. He gets a free week off to recover. So
Yeah.
go get him right now and add him to your IR plus or your IR. You should be able to add them from the free agents if they're available. Boone Jenner might not be available, but most of these guys are because they've been hurt a long time. Add them to your IR. If you can't add him and then move him, then go change your settings so you can add them straight to IR and bury these people now. Because if you come back from Four Nations and you try to grab a Boone Jenner, the the Blue Jackets are so close to the playoffs. They are on fire. Boone Jenner is, I've heard from everyone, like, over the years that he's a wonderful locker room guy and like a really super, kind of team player. He is not going to come back and mess up the mojo. This is a guy who's going to plug right back in. He's going to have a boost in points because the team's doing so well. And they're all playing for Johnny. They're all right in the home stretch, right? We're 30 games to the playoffs. They're almost there. Boone Jenner is a center winger. Get him now and hide him on your roster.
Nice.
That's my number one out of these. I think there's four good players that are hurt.
Okay, that's a good one. I like that. I got another stud. I don't really have too much to say about this guy. You might have more on his stats than I do, but it's a goalie, Charlie Lindgren for the Washington Capitals. He's available in about a third of the leagues. He's going to be a great plug and play option. The Caps are just a good team. So when you have a goalie like that that's got a good team in front of him, better chances of them winning. He hasn't gone negative. When I got on the app and was able to kind of look at his previous games, which goes back like 2 months, he hasn't gone negative in any of those games. So he's going to at least get you some points. And I don't want this to happen, but if Logan Thompson for some reason was to get hurt, Charlie Lindgren's going to take 90% of those starts then. So he's going to be, and if that happens, I mean, obviously you can't predict injuries, and I'm not wishing this, but everyone's going to be chomping at the bit to get him if Logan Thompson goes down. So, but in the meantime, he's a good spot starter. He'll probably start a game or two a week, just because I think the Caps will want to kind of keep it, pretty even. Logan's going to get more of the starts, but when you're a good team like that and you're winning and you're well balanced and you can put either guy in there and you don't have to worry about it, then you probably do that, especially if you know the playoffs are coming up. You're not going to wear your starter out. You're going to want to spread that workload around. So I would say keep an eye on Charlie Lindgren at the very least, and if you need someone whenever he's starting, he's a good option to pick up and play.
Yes, I agree. And you could even argue that it's the Caps are in first by quite a bit. There's still a lot of the season left, so who knows what happens. I think without glancing over at the second that the Leafs and the Panthers and the Caps are the teams to beat. I would still probably rather play the Caps, even though that sounds wrong,
Yeah, I can see
than the
that.
Panthers or the Leafs. And I know the Leafs lose every round in round one, but like they're so good. They're so good. I just watched that Edmonton Toronto game. Sorry to all the Edmonton fans out there that Gary Bettman called Toronto and stole the game. I don't know if you saw that, but they called him offside. He was offside by like a millimeter. They were winning. Toronto was winning 3-0. Edmonton comes back. They tie it 4-4 with 2 minutes left, and they took the goal off the board. And then the Jets and the Capitals going to overtime 4-4. So the two best games in the NHL have juggernauts going head to head.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
But to your point, Logan Thompson comes in. He kind of takes the job away from Lindgren. But last year, when they barely made the playoffs, it was all Charlie Lindgren carrying the team. So, he is a very good goalie that can do it.
He's capable.
Just because Logan Thompson took the job from him. If he goes down with injury, they are not worried at all about Lindgren being good enough to make a playoff run and for fantasy the rest of the playoffs. So, the rest of the regular season. So that's a great addition. He is 11 wins and 9 losses with a shutout, but very serviceable. And like you said, coming down the stretch, they'll probably play him a little more.
So I have a question for you. It's going to be a tangent. This T is for tangent for you. So you're a goalie, former goalie. How big of a difference is glove hand? Which glove a goalie catches with? So I think I read a stat not too long ago that said there are maybe 4 goalies in the league
Hmm.
that catch right-handed. Does
Yep.
that make, because I think
Yes.
most of them probably catch left-handed.
Most of them catch left-handed. Yep.
So only like 4 that catch with their right hand.
Yep.
Both of the Capitals goalies catch with their right hand.
It is super.
I don't know what that
I
was,
don't know what
but
that was, but we got the blues
hey,
up. Hey, that was, it
is
was
there
really.
something to that? Does that make a difference
To
at
be
all?
honest,
Or
I don't think it matters for the goalie, because when I was growing up, pretty much well, it's always right, even
yeah,
through NHL and everything. Pretty much everyone is catches with their left hand. In fact, it's
yeah.
hard to find the equipment. Sometimes you have to
Hmm.
custom order it. It's not quite like left-handed golf clubs are kind of
Oh,
expensive.
right.
You gotta order them.
Yeah.
Usually. So like some people just play that way. Like left-handed people play golf right-handed all the time because it's just
Yeah.
like I'm not, And so it's a little weird with like I didn't really realize till I was quite a bit older that I caught with my left hand, and I think most people did when I was a kid because like when you play baseball, you catch with your left hand
Right. Yep.
because you're right-handed. So
Yeah.
the goalies are right-handed that catch with their left. But not so much. Don't look now, but when you watch the NHL, right, people want right-handed defensemen because
Hmm.
everyone's left-handed, and it's just for whatever reason, there's just way more left-handed people in the league too. And it's like most of the goalies that catch with their left hand, they are left-handed because then they pass left-handed. So you catch the puck, you set it down, your stick is a lefty stick as a goalie. So they are left-handed people usually. And so it's easier to pass. I grew up totally right-handed. I can't left anything, and I had to learn how to pass left-handed as a goalie.
Okay.
And pretty much everyone I knew caught with their left hand, and they were right-handed. So they
Yeah.
had to learn. You have to learn how to shoot left-handed, and then it was like people were like, "Well, that's stupid." Like because goalies didn't pass very much, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day. And then the goalies who catch right-handed, I think they might be right-handed so they can pass the puck better. So it's
Hmm.
actually kind of flipped of what you would think for baseball. They catch with the right hand, they're left-handed. It's like, no, they catch with the right hand on purpose so they can pass the puck right-handed. And so I'm not quite sure if that's true. Either way, they just practice, they're good with the puck, right? But it's just more natural when you're young
Yeah.
that they're not going to learn to pass when they get to the NHL. And
Right.
so I don't think it matters that much. But for a shooter, you do shoot on a goalie that catches left hand 90% of the time.
Well, I was just going to say, as a for them being a goalie, maybe it doesn't make much of a difference. But I mean, if you're a shooter on the other team and you're like, "Hey, man, we're going high glove," okay, and every other team you play, high glove is the opposite corner
Yep.
than when you play the Caps.
Yeah.
I
It might affect it a little bit, especially with both goalies are right, where it's like I heard people ask on different pods like, does how much does it affect the defenseman of the Capitals that the goalie going back to get the
oh,
puck is the wrong way, and that one
okay,
I don't think affects it at all because they are going to use their backhand or their forehand. They're just
yeah,
shoveling it to the left or the right. I don't
right,
think the defenseman gets thrown off by that.
okay,
As long as the puck's put in the right area, I don't think that they get thrown off by that. But for the
yeah,
shooter, you do a lot of film analysis at the NHL level that's like, here's where they're good, here's where they're bad. On this goalie, we know we want to kind of try to open them up or expose this, right? And sometimes they don't have time to do it super detailed, but come playoffs, they will.
hmm,
And they'll have it really, really zoned in where, like, whatever. I don't care how good you are, you've got something that's a weakness. Even if you're still good,
right,
you're not as good, right? And so it's whatever it is, they have strategy. Like
yeah,
Pecorine was always really, really, really good with his glove. Well, if you get way down low, way down on the goal line, and you can move things left to right, he had trouble down real low. He lost the puck sometimes. So they know to exploit that. So if you're watching film and you're saying, hey, this guy's got a bad blocker side, go blocker on him, go blocker on him, go blocker on him. Well, when you're coming down to shoot, that's the left side of the net for your whole life, almost.
right,
Then
yeah,
you're like, oh crap, wait, he's got a bad blocker on the other side. So I'm not sure, but it probably takes a split second. Where if you're Austin Matthews, it doesn't matter. But if
Yeah,
you're
I mean these guys.
it maybe matters, you
Yeah,
know?
I'm sure at this level it doesn't matter. Like you're saying, I mean you're so good you can probably beat them on either side if you're Austin Matthews or Connor McDavid or whatever. But
Yeah.
um, so maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're just trying to play your game and you're just shooting at that spot no matter what.
Yeah.
I could see maybe it making more of a difference if you're in a shootout and
Yeah.
it's just one on one. What you're going. But even then, I think these guys are they're top notch. I mean, we're talking best in the world, so it's easy for them to kind of make that adjustment and know where to shoot. I
Definitely.
would have to assume.
With the shootout, you got a good point that I think kind of plays into the whole
Because some of
concept.
those guys are coming down.
You come in a
The
room and
shooter, you're
go,
coming in on a different side.
right.
Maybe then you got to go. If you're trying to go backhand, but this guy's
And
gloves on your backhand. It
right,
might.
and you almost certainly practice on a goalie that catches left. So it's a
Yeah,
little weird for the Capitals that in practice, they always shoot on a right hand catch.
yeah,
Then in the
yeah.
game, they shoot on a left hand catch. But it probably doesn't affect it very much. But things like a shootout kind of play to the same concept with this video over analysis in the playoffs because we're going
Right.
to play the team 7 times. Is like, I do think it could get into people's heads.
Yeah.
Or if Logan Thompson's playing really well and it's round one and whoever, they got to play the Red Wings. And the Red Wings upset them. They win the first 2 games. Okay, well now if the Caps are like, oh my, we are in panic mode now, we should be winning and we're losing, then that's where maybe the Red Wings could be in a situation where they're overthinking it. Now they're like, we got a chance to upset the President's Trophy winner. Like, okay, he's not good on this side. You got to make sure you shoot on the blocker, and then it's so those type of things I think maybe would play with it. Less about the left right, but once you start over analyzing it, it could probably get in people's heads where they're like, dude, just shoot the puck. They might be kind of like, if they're playing really good too. That's people always joke. I don't know, goalies are weird, right? But we always joke like shooters are stupid. So it's like the intelligence of the team goes backwards from the net out. And so the forwards, obviously, there's people like McDavid and stuff that are super smart. But when you're playing youth hockey, it's like the forward doesn't even know how to play hockey almost. He just score, pass and score,
Right.
pass and score. So you're out of position or you're covering the wrong guy or you don't understand a drill that's complicated. It's like they just know to shoot. That's all they do. So then when the goalie's playing good, you see it all the time in the NHL, especially if they're a big name, Bobrovsky, Shesterkin, Hellebuck. When they're on, players overthink it. They got the whole net open. They try to do a quick little move to go backdoor. It's like, dude, just shoot. The goalie's on his belly.
Yeah.
But they're so like, I can't score. We can't score on Price. We can't score on Price. He's too good. I got to do one more pass. And it just messes them up. They just can't get it out of their head that this goalie, we can't score on this goalie. So, anyways, the left-handed catch thing could play into it more. If Logan Thompson's a brick wall, they might be freaking out. Oh, he's right-handed, dude. Every time I think I'm going blocker, he catches it and gets a whistle. And it's they're in their head. I could see it.
All right.
What were we doing? Studs and scrubs?
Studs and scrubs.
Studs and scrubs. And then we can move off to the topic you have. I think you got a good one, but one that is not so under the radar, but he is doing really well right now. I don't know if it was my turn, sir. Stud.
No, it is.
Morgan Geekie. Geekie's young.
Oh, yes, for Boston.
Yep. And he's playing really well right now. He had 2 games in a minus, so don't yell at me too much here if you guys are listening. But he had a lot of points recently. He had 1, 2, 3 multi-point games, and he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goals out of his last 10 or so. So maybe you could argue that a week ago was the time to pick him up, but put him on your watch list and just see. He's a center winger, so he's definitely worth looking at. I mean, he's only got 15 goals on the year, and he's got, 6 of them or 7 of them in 2 weeks. So right now he's scoring quite a bit. and Pasta just had like a 4-point game, and he's playing really well. So the Bruins have they had a streak where they did really well recently, and then all of a sudden they skidded again. So the Atlantic is what it is. It's this dumpster fire over and over and over and over again. So just keep an eye on him. That like he may or may not be a solid pickup if you need a plug and play just to get an extra game. He's worth throwing in. If he does nothing, drop him. If he gets a goal or two, sweet. Added bonus. So
Yeah.
easy for this week, Morgan Geeky.
Nice. All right, I got no more studs, and I got one scrub here, and he's on my team.
Uh-oh.
Anze Kopitar. Yeah, golly, dude, you've gotten better looking the longer you've been in the league. I will say
That's
that.
true. That is a fact.
But I think just purely name-wise is why I haven't dropped him yet. He's still owned in like 76% of the leagues. And he probably is top line and on power play 1. But in the last 2 months, he's got 4 goals.
Ooh.
And they were 2 games where he scored 2 goals apiece. So he's just laying big old eggs out there. He's
Kopitar Mama Hen.
He's a center only, so that limits him as well. And here recently, I didn't look up and count specifically, but I would venture to guess in the last week, he's had more games that he's gone negative than he's been positive.
Ugh, that's tough.
And so if you're like me, you're just having a hard time dropping him because it's like, well, it's Kopitar. I mean, he plays on the power play. He's got his opportunities, but he's also Kopitar, and he's much more a defensive center than he is an offensive power.
Very true.
So
point.
If you have the room like I do, but still haven't pulled the trigger yet, my center onlys, I got Braden Point and Dylan Larkin on my team.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to start Point and my heart. And Larkin's been he's a solid center.
Very good.
So, yeah. So I'm never going to start him over either one of those guys. And I still have, for sure, Stamkos, who is a center winger on my team. And for as awful as the Predators are, I still will start Stamkos because I feel like he is much more offensive minded than Kopitar is. So I like his odds at he's going to take the shots. Stamkos is going to get 6 shots a game. Kopitar might get 2.
Yeah.
So the opportunities are going to be different. So I'm still hanging on to Kopitar. I'll probably throw everyone some awful trades for him, starting with Stu. But honestly, he's probably getting to the point where he's droppable in our league. And once I do, I'll feel this relief off of me. But until then, it's kind of hard for me to pull the trigger just because of his name. Yes. And he is a solid player, a solid real-life player. But for fantasy-wise, where you need points, he's just not getting it done. And I probably could cut ties with him, but I'm just struggling to do it.
And, it's hard because we talked about this with Malkin earlier in the season. When they're a big name, it's hard. But also,
Malkin's in the same boat, yep.
It's like, you don't want to drop him, but it's fantasy. You need the points. And you mentioned Larkin. I meant to say it earlier in the podcast. The Wings get a big win against Calgary. They got another big win against the Oilers. And that game, I actually fell asleep early, and it was out west, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and I watched overtime. It was great.
I watched when Larkin tied it up from then on. So
so you're not
maybe.
Yeah. Anytime they can throw out Draisaitl with Bouchard and McDavid in overtime, and the Wings can hang on, and the Wings went down 2-0, did they not? So good for the Wings. And the only reason I brought him up really was because Larkin has been totally nail gun amazing since Christmas, basically. And he's great for fantasy if you don't have him. He's better than some of the bigger names. Like Larkin's a pretty big name, but he's underrated because the Wings are bad, and they've been bad his whole career. So it's like, okay, Malkin is out, Kopitar is out, Larkin is in, and Raymond, I think pretty much everyone has rostered, but like they're still overperforming what you might think. The stat I heard was that over the month of like 25 to 25, like since Christmas until January 25th, Raymond was number one in the NHL for points in that span.
Mm-hmm.
Larkin was like top three in points in that span. And that's Makar and McKinnon and Draisaitl going absolutely bananas with points. So they are totally legit fantasy players. They're awesome. The whole team
New
obviously
coach.
isn't that good. New coach, winning, going crazy. Larkin and Raymond both score in the shootout against the Oilers.
Yes.
McDavid gets stopped, and Nugent Hopkins misses the puck.
Doesn't even get the shot off.
He doesn't even get a shot off. So, I mean, the Red Wings are totally legit. It's just top to bottom, all 20 people. Their roster's not that awesome, right?
Yeah.
That's why they're always a bubble team. They don't quite have the guns to compete, but their top dudes, make no mistake, are absolutely studs in the NHL for fantasy. You probably already have Larkin and Raymond, but I just wanted to plug the Red Wings because I forgot to at the beginning of the pod. To go along with your Kopitar drop, if you need a center only who's got a bump right now, he is going to be way better than Kopitar, okay, for fantasy. He's currently hot right now. It's Jasper Kotkaniemi, okay? Kotkaniemi, or however you pronounce his name, sorry, is another Finnish stud with the Hurricanes, Aho, Rantanen, and Kotkaniemi, who got, I am almost positive, cut from the team. So that goes with my theory that some of these guys that are on the bubble, they got a chip on their shoulder. Ricard Raquel's kind of the golden boy of this example, but Kotkaniemi has been hot recently. He's been scoring a lot recently. I just moved his name because I was looking up Kopitar is unfortunately doing quite badly. But Kotkaniemi is recently gotten several points. He got, 5 goals out of his past 7 and a couple of assists. So he's not going to really be blowing your doors off, but he's only rostered in 3% of the fantasy leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the lines getting jumbled up, I assume, not quite sure, but they also got Taylor Hall in the trade, right, with Rantanen. So power play unit 2 is Roslovic, Kotkaniemi, Taylor Hall, and Brent Burns. Sean Walker's also on there. I don't really know too much about Sean Walker, but it's a pretty solid power play 2. He's playing on power play 2. He's playing with Roslovic and Hall on the power play and his regular 5-on-5 line. So they're just going to have good chemistry. You know, they're going to work on it more and more and more and more. And their line 1 with Rantanen and Aho and their power play line 1 with Aho and Rantanen, you're going to get favorable matchups, I would assume. People are going to either have to put their checking line or their best line against Aho and Rantanen. They have to shut that line down. And so it gives the opportunity for Hall and Kotkaniemi and Roslovic to get some mismatches, especially at home games. You know, they're going to be so focused. Your focus against Carolina has to be, how can we stop Rantanen and Aho? So that's going to leave them open to get some mismatches. And if they're out there against line 4, they're good, they're fast. Hall can still keep up. He's just having a rough year in Chicago. I think Kotkaniemi is a sneaky pickup. So with that, I think I'm done with smoking scrubs. And before, you wanted to do your trade thing, right?
Yeah.
Let me just fire off the names of suggestions for the IR, because there's just a few that are all pretty good. William Karlsson, Boone Jenner, Jersey's probably out, and Jordan Eberle and Adam Lowry. And maybe Nichushkin. So Eberle, Lowry, Boone Jenner, and Karlsson, I think, are the 4 that are probably coming back after 4 Nations, because they're all 2-3 weeks away. They're going to let them rest, and then they're going to throw them out there. Adam Lowry, debatably, is the best one because he's on the best team, and he's going to get a big boost of points and power play. For me, Boone Jenner was the pick because he's a center winger, and they're just having this Cinderella year. But I think I went with Karlsson on my team because the Golden Knights are just totally stacked. So all 3 of those guys, or 4, add them to your IR, because you're going to have them when everyone else wants them. It's too late. You've already done them. And just like the teams in the real NHL, maybe you flip them. Maybe
Yeah.
you pick them up and trade them before the deadline. Let's hear your
Nice.
news for this week, as it were.
Okay, so I just thought, with all these trades going down, we just kind of revisit some past trades from more recently all the way back to, back in the day. And it's always fun to kind of go back and see what some of these trades were and kind of hindsight who won. And, some of these trades are just like, why in the world would you ever make that trade? Um, so I didn't dig too far into some of these. Some of these we know the backstories too, but other times it's like, okay, what was this? Why did they make this trade? There had to be something with the team. This player wanted out, and so they just got rid of them, or whatever it was, because some of these just don't make sense. One big trade that I don't have written down here now, but just kind of popped into my head was the Jack Eichel trade. Right, that was the same kind of deal. He wanted out of Buffalo. They
Yep.
didn't know, and Jack Eichel kind of made it very well known that he was unhappy there and wanted out. And so you kind of handcuff the Buffalo Sabres at that point. And I guess if you're tired of being on that team, you don't really care. But
Yep.
he knew he wasn't going to play for him. And so they probably don't get as much as what they could if he was healthy and, teams didn't know that he was as unhappy as he was. But he goes to Vegas. They win a cup. He gets a cup now. I think the Sabres got two or three players and some serviceable players.
Yeah,
Alex Tuch,
was really good.
Curbs, and then a couple of draft picks. I don't know what they turned into, but um, so that one kind of worked out, for Vegas, obviously, because then I think he was still even. I don't think he played at all during the season. Came back in the playoffs. It was
I
one of
think
those long-term injured, reserved kind of deals. But
yes.
so some of these trades, are just kind of crazy. Stick with Vegas here. Mark Stone, when Vegas traded for him, they gave up two players and a pick. Um, and if I only have players and not their names, it means I've never heard of these players or they were of such insignificance that they didn't turn into anything.
Maybe 15 years later we'll learn. Oh, that guy. Oh, okay, that was a good stud. But
Yeah.
Mark Stone,
So,
Jack Eichel, are you crazy?
yeah. I mean, they basically got him for nothing.
I mean, that's their captain. Stone, I think, won the Conn Smythe? Question mark. Marcia so did.
Marcia so did.
Marcia
Yeah.
so did.
But,
And Eichel,
uh, yeah.
who's the top 10 player in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, they look
So,
up. And they kind of walked through the finals a little bit. I mean, that team was.
pretty good payoff for them. So, one deal that like didn't work out very well. I'm always interested to see how much a team gives up for a player. So when Erik Karlsson was traded from the Senators to the Sharks, it was Erik Karlsson and one other player. Again, I don't know who that other player was. Uh, but he got traded for four players and four draft picks. So you're talking like eight players for two. I mean, and I know Erik Karlsson when he got traded, he was coming off a year where he was potentially even leading the league in points. I mean, just was
Yeah.
hitting almost 100 points and was just an on fire crazy. Took Ottawa to the East Finals, um, basically on his back. Uh, but it's just wild to me that a team would give up that much for one player.
Yes. And then,
Uh,
you know what? I feel like they felt, which I think has backfired because the Penguins did it again. And I'm just sitting here on my couch, like couch GM. But I don't know how
yeah,
people don't see it. Erik Karlsson in his prime, when he was younger with Ottawa, was absolutely legendary. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer
yeah,
type of player. He was really good defense also. His Achilles tendon gets snapped in half, right, with the skate. He comes back. He's still amazing. Okay, well,
yeah,
maybe he's lost a step or two. He's still so good. The Sharks kind of go all in with their last Thornton, Pavelski team and all those guys. They think Brent Burns has got 80 points, Carlson's got 100 points. We're going to win because we got like four people on the team that are 100-point people. And it's like,
yeah,
they can't. Carlson can't be with another offensive forward. When he did well with the Sharks, they would pair him with Dylan. And that's what I
Yeah,
used to joke was that he's not only not the best player, the best defenseman in the league to win the Norris, he's the third best defenseman on his team. Because
yeah,
Brendan Dillon is the best defenseman on the Sharks back then. And then I guess you'd say Burns, who also is not very good at defense. And then Carlson. And then he goes to the Penguins and he's playing with Chris Letang. You have to pair him with a Brandon Tanev type of a player.
right.
Because
Someone that's
then
going to play
go,
defense,
just go,
a
just go.
stay-at-home guy. Yeah,
Because Tanev's going to sit there anyways, regardless who he's on the ice with. So
yeah,
that to me is always crazy with Carlson. He's a fantastically talented person, but it's like you can't put two offensive defensemen together. What are you thinking?
yeah. Doesn't work.
Yeah.
So here's another one. And some of these, it's interesting to look at and think, would a team do this today? Whatever. And I know it's down the road, so hindsight's always 2020. But uh, so Dougie Hamilton, he got traded. He was in Boston. They traded him to the Flames for 3 draft picks. I don't know who those draft picks turned out to be, but I mean, imagine if
They ain't Dougie
Boston
Hamilton.
still had Dougie Hamilton on their team. I mean, so
Especially when Char retired and everything, right? He was still playing when they did that.
yeah.
Then you got
So
McAvoy and Hamilton as line one.
yeah, it'd be crazy. One that kind of worked out for both teams a little bit, Blues and the Sabres. So the Blues traded for Ryan O'Reilly,
Yep.
and Buffalo got 3 players and 2 draft picks. One of those players was Tage Thompson.
Oh, okay. No.
So, I mean, imagine if the Blues had Tage Thompson. Do they wish, oh man, we wish we still had Tage Thompson. But you won a cup with Riley.
Yes.
You got what you wanted.
Definitely,
short term.
because that's the Buffalo keeps losing people to win the cup. Sam Reinhart wins a cup.
Yes.
O'Reilly wins a cup. Eichel wins a cup.
Jack Eichel wins a cup. Yeah.
I'm in the camp that the Blues should, like, obviously long term you'd want Tage Thompson, but if you got the cup, it doesn't matter.
It paid off.
Like the Sharks, we just made fun of them a little bit, but like they didn't win a cup. They were so good for 10 years and they didn't win. If you get one, it's worth it. Yes, the
100%.
Rangers probably have won 3, but if you win one, you won.
Yes. Yep. I would agree. Here's an interesting one. Joe Thornton was with Boston, got traded to the Sharks for only 3 players: Wayne Primeau, Brad Stewart, and Marco Sturm. So Joe Thornton traded for 3 players. That year, Joe Thornton won the Hart Trophy as league MVP. Only player ever to win MVP and have been traded middle of that MVP season.
Yes.
So you're the league MVP and you only get 3 players for him? So that makes me wonder, like, okay, was there something more? Was he not happy? Was he not going to re-sign? I don't know exactly when that trade went down.
Yeah,
was it later in the season?
With that trade, I think. I can't remember.
So it's just a little interesting. Of course, we all remember the Ray Bourque trade to the Avs. I didn't realize that Dave Anderchuk was also a part of that trade.
I didn't remember that.
Now, I think he would have had to have gone somewhere else after that trade, because if you remember, Ray Bourque was traded at the deadline. The Avs lose in the playoffs that year, and then he comes back for one more year to the Avs. I don't think Anderchuk was on the Avs that second year, because I think he's only got 1 cup with the Lightning, which was a few years later.
That seems right to me, because I was forgetting that. I was thinking Bourque got traded and won. He traded and lost and then won.
Yes.
So he was. So when did they win? 2003. So then 2002 the Wings won. Oh no, this was before that.
He got traded in 2000.
And
they would have lost to the Stars.
2001 was the Stars with Hall and Madonna.
They lost to them, yes.
Yeah, and then the Stars went on to win against Buffalo. And then the Avs won in 2001.
That was 99.
That was 99?
So in 2000,
that was the Devils.
The Devils won in 2000 against the Stars.
Okay. Yeah.
But the Stars were in the finals. Ray Bourque comes back for one more year. The Avs win it in 2001, and
Which
then
I have to say, especially back then in the heyday, and we're screw the Avs. I want the Avs to go 0-82, but
yes,
Bork finally winning a cup is a wonderful story. And one of my favorite hockey moments, I'd say probably top 10 for sure, maybe top 5, is the Sakic pass to Bork. Doesn't even
yeah,
pick it up. I know we've
yeah.
talked about it, and we will continue to say it because we're Red Wings fans. If that's Sakic's first cup, he probably lifts it. But since he had won,
Probably,
he
but
just
he doesn't hold it for long, and Raymond Bourque is still the first player he gives it to, and it's
and
still a
he
great
and he just
story.
does that. No, it's
Yeah,
for you. Like that
yeah,
was awesome. That's so classy. I didn't even care.
yeah,
Even back then, the only player I liked on the Avs was Sakic. I mean,
yes,
that is such a cool hockey
yeah,
history moment. So
yeah.
love that story.
So we also know about the Patrick Waugh trade from the Canadians.
Yeah,
Um, and so it was Patrick Waugh and Mike Keane traded from the Canadians to the Avalanche, and the Canadians got in return Jacqueline Thibault, goalie, Andrei Kovalenko, and Martin Rosinski. So it's a 3-player for 2-player trade for Patrick Waugh, who at the time had 2 Stanley Cups.
and two
But
Conn Smites
yeah,
because I think he
so
won 3 Conn Smites, which is psychotic. No, he only won 1 in Montreal.
I'm gonna say
Maybe he
look
won
this look
3
this up for me.
2
He's got 3 cups,
2 Conn Smythe.
but I'm going to say that the 1993 Montreal Canadian Conn Smythe winner was Claude Lemieux. I take that back. He won it in 95.
With
Who
the
would
app.
it have been in 93?
It was. I'm pretty sure it's because he's the only goalie ever, I think, to win 2 Conn Smites. I think.
Okay, so I'm going to need a Conn Smythe update here. Claude Lemieux won it in 95 with the Devils, I think, the Conn Smythe.
Oh, with the Devils. Yeah, yeah. I hate Claude Lemieux.
So
1993
who?
with Patrick Waugh.
Okay. Did he win it in 86 too? The Conn Smythe?
Patrick Waugh won the award 3 times: 86, 93, and 2001 with the Avs.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that's what I was probably thinking of. Your
Yeah,
headphones are
you
cutting
said I
out.
got. Oh, uh-oh. Are they?
Yeah, I can't hear you. You probably got to do that thing. The trick.
Oh, I don't know. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I
Can
can
you
hear you.
hear me now?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's your battery. I love that your helmet ties up like that. That's
Well, I got the strap,
ridiculous.
so I'll just strap it up here. Okay.
Wait, no.
Can you hear me? I think my beard gets in the way, honestly. Can you hear me now if I'm
Yeah, when you
talking
do
like
that,
this?
I can hear it. So
Okay. So I don't know what it is, but I think my beard like blocks the receiver a little bit, maybe.
honestly, it could.
I
People
don't
who
know.
don't
Can
know
you
this,
hear me all right now?
yes, Nick's not only got a long beard, but it's not one of these straggly ones. That is a thick man beard there.
All right, so I'm still talking just so you can tell me if you hear me or not. Am I good? Still
Yeah,
good?
I think you're good now. Yep.
Okay. So, but that, I mean, we all know the story. Maybe we'll dig into that another time. But, the whole Patrick Waugh went out of Montreal. So you're kind of in a bind. You can't really get a haul for him. So they
Yeah,
trade him.
he says I'm not playing. So what are you gonna do?
Right. Here's a big one. When Eric Lindros was traded, uh, right, he was drafted by the Nordiques, I believe, and then they traded him.
Yeah,
So
he
Lindros
was
went to
honest when I'm not gonna
Philly.
play.
Yeah. So he was traded to Philadelphia for Mike Ricci, Ricci. I know I've seen him play before. Steve Duchesne, Ron Hextall, Hall of Fame goaltender, Kerry
Yeah.
Hoffman, and Peter Forsberg.
Okay, you cut out a little bit. It was Ron Hextall and Peter Forsberg.
Yes, Peter Forsberg. Plus 2 first-round draft picks and $15 million cash for Eric Lindros. So Eric Lindros was traded for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players 2 draft picks, and 15 schmil. So, and I mean, I guess Philly went to the finals with them, but they didn't win a cup.
No, no.
So, kind of a little bit of a lopsided. I mean, I guess
Totally.
like,
And I know that like Lindros was supposed to be Mario Lemieux reborn,
yeah,
right? But Forsberg, Hall of Fame, Hextall, Hall of Fame, 2 more people and 2 first round picks and 15 million. I mean, it's like there's no way. I mean, if it was Patrick, I mean, if he really turned into Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, then you'd look like a genius. But
right.
we all know that that turned into the Avalanche being insanely stacked with Patrick Waugh and Forsberg and etc. to then go on to win their first year as a team. I'm sure the Nordiques fans listening are still having nightmare flashbacks about it.
Yeah. So I got a few more here. We'll run through. I hope my headphones make it. But Mark Messier, when he was traded to the Rangers, he was traded for 3 players. So the Oilers, but he was traded like early 90s. So I mean, he's coming off of the Oilers won in 1990. He's coming off of winning with that cup. You only get 3 players for him, and then he goes on to win another cup, and the Oilers don't. The Oilers traded. This leads me to Wayne Gretzky. They traded Gretzky and still won a cup. But then they trade Messier, and then they don't win a cup, but Messier wins another cup. But, oh, dang it, I think my headphones just cut out. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, you come in and out right now. We're talking about the Messier trade. I can mostly hear you.
One of my headphones died, so I'm going to try to charge it in my case and still talk and hopefully get through this all right.
Apple, if you're listening.
Yeah, I need new headphones.
You're better. Apple,
a couple.
Send some headphones.
A couple of trades. Here's some that are kind of like, I wonder if they regret these trades. The Chicago Blackhawks traded Dominik Hasek for 1 player and a 4th round draft pick.
You have to think they regretted that because they
had
were
Belfour at the time.
They were horrible in his whole career.
There was a time when the Blackhawks had Ed Belfour and Dominik Hasek on their team. Just saying. So they trade him. The Hawks trade him to Buffalo for a player and a 4th round draft pick.
Oh my goodness! And Hobby Bulin, who won a cup with the Lightning, right? So you're talking they got Hobby Bulin, probably caliber for Hall of Fame, Ed Belfour, first ballot Hall of Fame, Dominik Hasek, debatably the best goalie who ever lived. Yeah. Sorry, Chicago. You made some mistakes.
Yeah. So the Red Wings, when they traded for Dominik Hasek, they gave up Vyacheslav Kozlov and a 1st round draft pick. And then, which I think was an awesome trade because then they won the cup.
Yes. Immediately. I mean, what are you thinking? I don't know, maybe Hasek just said, look, I'm amazing. Buffalo, you suck. We almost won 1 time. I'm going to go win a cup.
There was one of the documentaries I had watched, the GM in Buffalo, I think, had connections with Detroit, and he called them first and said, hey, we're looking to move off of Hasek. Are you interested? And then they made it happen.
Okay. Interesting.
So also the Red Wings also traded for Chris Chelios, early 2000s. They traded for him, and they gave up 1 player and 2 first round draft picks.
That's pretty good. You know, this all goes to show that the draft picks are a little bit overrated. You're not getting a McDavid, or no one would trade for their first round pick if they knew there was him in the pipeline. Like, would you rather have Chris Chelios or maybe a young player?
He won 2 cups with the Wings. So, I mean, you traded for him. You gave up 2 picks and Andreas Eriksson, and you get 2 cups. I mean, that's worth it. So, here's one that I wonder if this team regrets it a little bit. So, the Washington Capitals, at one point in time, made a trade with the Nashville Predators. They received Martin Erat, who I've heard of, and was a good player, and Michael Lotta, who I don't really know much about, don't think he really made much of an impact. And they gave up Philip Forsberg.
Ooh.
Imagine the Caps with Philip Forsberg on their team right now.
They're in first place, and Forsberg, even in a down year, is probably going to get 70 points or more. And what did he have, 95 last season? Oh,
So, I mean, hindsight's 2020. Like I said, they traded him probably 10 years ago. So at the
well,
time,
right?
you're not sure what.
Especially back then. Now, Forsberg probably wasn't as good as he is now back then, but like when you got Backstrom and Oshie and Carlson and Ovechkin all going.
Hump of the Penguins in the playoffs a year or two early? Do they win another cup with Forsberg? Who
Yeah,
knows?
maybe. Because, I mean, how many years was it like if the Penguins win, they're probably going to win the cup. They're the favorite. If the Capitals beat the Penguins, they're the favorite. There was 4 or 5 years where those two were the teams to beat.
Well, I mean, just think the Penguins went to the finals in '08. They won it in '09. And then they're back in there in 15, 16, or 16, 17. They win it. Yep. So they were good that whole stretch of 10 years, that kept it was always Ovi and Crosby in the playoffs, and Crosby and the Penguins were always coming out ahead. So, I mean, if you kept that player and you get one more cup, and Ovechkin has two now instead of just one, I mean,
yep.
Who knows?
Yep.
And the last one I want to talk about is, as a Wings fan, maybe the greatest trade of all time. Chris Draper was traded for $1.
Chris, do it again and see if your headphones come out. Chris Draper traded
for $1.
$1. Amazing.
And for sure went on to win a couple of Selke trophies as defensive forward of the league. And I didn't know this until I was looking him up. He's only one of 7 players in Red Wings history to play 1,000 games for the Red Wings.
One of 7, that's it? Ooh, Can I name them all?
Ooh, I don't know, maybe. But he's also got 4 Stanley Cups. So you're talking you traded for a guy for $1 that was an integral what's the word?
Integral part of the team, yeah.
Part of the team. Centered the grind line, was out there winning faceoffs, killing penalties, scoring timely goals, and just laying his body on the line. Obviously, he's at the center of that whole Red Wings Avalanche rivalry. Just a gutsy player. And for the Red Wings to get him for $1
it might be one of the best trades of all time. I mean, $1 is essentially free, right? And it's like there are times
it's basically like, hey, we don't want Chris Draper, but we can't just give him to you. We need to trade him for something. What do you got?
Yeah. Okay. Here's $1. It's like, yeah. I mean, I'll buy you a coffee. Would have gotten 3 Chris Drapers. I mean, and there was times like if you're not old enough to remember watching those, that it wasn't just like, okay, he's serviceable or third line or the grind line. As a faceoff specialist, he was so good at it. There would be times where it's like, okay, the big dogs are whatever, Fedorov and Yzerman and Lindstrom, etc. And a little later in their careers, they added the Shanahan and Robitaille and Hall and the crazy Hall of Fame people. Sometimes Draper would still be out there with those dudes because it was like, we have to win the draw. Draper's taking the draw. And then we got Lindstrom, Shanahan, Hall, Yzerman on the ice. And it's like, this isn't a mistake. Like, Draper is that good that he's with those people. He's not just on line 4 or whatever. What?
Great leader on the team.
A big leader.
All those players that he played with, and he's one of the ones wearing an A.
Yep. I mean, that goes to show how good he is. And in today's world, as an older retired guy, how involved he is with Detroit's community, and he's involved with some sort of a player scouting development or something. I don't remember.
In the team on a front office.
Something now. But right, exactly. For $1, that could be debated as the best trade of all time, for real. Yeah. I love that though. That's a great breakdown of all these insane trades, right? Because it's very on brand right now.
But, I mean, it's just kind of interesting to go back and look and see teams that maybe wish they wouldn't have made those trades, or and like I said, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure there's a bunch of teams that wish they wouldn't have made trades that they did in the past, but you
Right.
know, have to
There's
think of
there's a few that they're probably kicking themselves a bit.
so that's
Love
all I
that,
got.
dude. No, I love that. Appreciate you doing the research on it. And speaking of trades, I've got one prediction that I don't know if it's really that unique. I think of other people have said it, but I just want it on the recording. That I think. Did you hear Brandon Saad walked away from money? He walked away from the Blues.
Yes.
It's a mutual agreement. They killed his contract. He walks away from like $5 million or something, $4 million.
Yeah.
And I looked up his career earnings. He's made 50, 60 million.
Okay.
So he's not hurting for cash. But for 4 or 5 million, no one wants to touch him. Okay, he can probably sign for 2 or 3 pretty much anywhere. But there's some contenders. I bet you they'll say, look, we'll give you league minimum, come win a cup. And my guess is that the Oilers are going to sign Brandon Saad for whatever it is, $850,000.
I
And
think he
then,
already signed with the team.
oh, what? Did he really? Dang it.
Look it up.
Oh, man. Ruined it.
Not
Well,
the
that's
Oilers.
okay, though, because I don't want it to go on the air where I look totally stupid, only halfway stupid.
It's not
What?
the Oilers.
Okay, if you look up Saad, by the way, without Brandon, it's Students Against Destructive Decisions. So, drive sober, don't abuse things, but let's look up Brandon Saad. Oh, dang it. See, this is the problem. I'm talking too much and not doing my research. Hold on. Where's his news?
And he did sign for less.
You know what? It's the same theory, though. It's the Vegas Golden Knights.
Contender signs for like 1, maybe 1.5 if I don't know what it was.
And okay, here was the other part of my theory. William Karlsson's hurt. Okay, the other part of my theory was going to be Evander Kane is going to not come back to the playoffs. I don't think Karlsson's that hurt, right? I just mentioned that he's going to come back. But they're doing the long-term injured reserve trick, getting Saad on there and then springing a guy off of IR. So, all right, bad take. Sorry about that, guys. But
no, I liked your take. You just had the wrong team.
I had the wrong team, and it had already happened. I should read the news. But same thing. A contender's going to grab him for cheap.
It did kind of get lost in the headlines with all these trades.
You know what? Literally, I missed it because of all the big ones. But I think that is a bigger trade than the headlines would predict because he is a very serviceable third or fourth liner still. And on a team as good as Vegas, you have got so many weapons you're worried about that if you're the Dallas Jets, Avalanche, Knights, and Oilers are all contenders. You got to focus so hard on shutting down the big boys that having someone like Saad out there instead of some no-name person, he's going to be a difference maker.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so not a hot take then, a mistake, but watch the Knights. I bet on the Knights in the offseason. I didn't pick them to win in our previews, but they're so freaking stacked. I think people just don't want to talk about them because they don't like the Golden Knights. But Vegas is so good.
Yeah, they are.
Okay. Good stuff. Well, we're having headphone problems and Stu watching the news problems, but that's okay. We are here for fantasy. We've made that abundantly clear. And send in your movies. Send in your... Hey, buddy. I can see you. Keep your stick on the ice.
Make the first move, Conway.